Is your fabric stash getting out of control? I have a solution.
So if you have been quilting for any amount of time, you may end up with piles like this, where you just have random bits of fabric from previous projects, and maybe yours is very neatly done. I had this actually folded up in bins, but I've started working on a scrap quilt, and it's actually, it's one of those things where it gets worse before it gets better, but this is like leftover remnants of fabric from previous quilts. I used this on the back of a quilt. This was from a quilt. This was from a pillowcase I made for my daughter. This is from a bag I made for my niece. If you've been sewing or quilting for any amount of time, you end up with lots of remnants, and you finish the project that you purchased the fabric for, but you still have a lot left over. So scrap quilts can be a great way to use up your stash. And I saw an idea the other day, and I modified it and played around with it, and I started making these kind of like a partial log cabin block. And so this is a 4-inch square here. This is 2.5-inch strips. So this is 2.5 inches by 4 inches, 2.5 by 6, 2.5 by 6, and 2.5 by 8. And you make these. You can lay them out all different kinds of ways. I saw that some like diagonal rainbow quilts. I've just been looking at lots of different ideas. I did not follow a pattern for this, and every single block is different. And it's great for fussy cutting because I started with a 4-inch square here. You can fussy cut something, and then I just tried to kind of make it monochromatic. So each square, this is like a white square. This one is primarily green. This one is primarily blue. And then I have all different colors in here. So here's one that's primarily pink. And then another one that's mostly blue. This one is mostly yellow. I think this is gonna make a really fun quilt that's gonna be a scrappy rainbow quilt, and it's gonna be a little bit of an I Spy quilt because of all the different fussy cut centers. So let me show you how to make these blocks. I don't even know how many I can make. I have so much scraps and remnants. This could end up getting quite large, and I've already played around with the layout a few different times. Not sure exactly how this is gonna end up either, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. And it's hard to even pick a favorite block because I love all of them. And it's kind of a fun little trip down memory lane to see, you know, pieces from quilts that you've made before. Like this is a little bit of Cave Facet fabric, and I don't have much of that. This is a little bit of Tula Pink fabric. This is from the Parlor line. Anyway, so much fun. Let me show you how to make these blocks. Oh, I love this one too. Okay, now see, look, each of these has the same, I did each of these is the same print here in the middle. This was a butterfly print, but on this one I used oranges and yellows. On this one I used blues, and on this one I used purples. And so they each look a little bit different, even though it's very similar. And so let me show you how to make these blocks. They're really fun because these are 2.5-inch strips here. You can very easily use leftover jelly roll strips, or if you just have a little tiny bit of fabric left, cut a 2.5-inch strip. If you can get at least a 4-inch and a 6-inch piece, it could be your inner one. Sometimes what determined where it was gonna go on here was I might have used this fabric out here, but it only, I didn't have it bigger than 6.5 inches. So it had to go in this middle section because I didn't have a long enough piece. The longest piece on the outside is 2.5 by 8. And so it kind of, when you're messing with your scraps and looking at what you have, that kind of determined my color placement as well. I made some of them with all prints, and what I discovered was if you use print on print on print, like let me show you this one. This one I used print on print on print. It gets a little muddy and not as distinct. I found out I like it better if there's a little bit of separation by mixing in some solids as well, and not just doing print on print, unless you really do truly have like a low volume. Like this is a print technically, but it really kind of reads as white. And so this would go in the green row of my quilt. Let's get started. Okay, so here I've already started this one. This was a 4-inch square, and then I did a 2.5 by 4-inch piece across the top, and then a 2.5 by 6-inch piece on the side. And then I was kind of gonna audition and see what else I wanted to use, and I kind of thought this blue would be pretty to go along the outside. I think that would end up looking really nice because this kind of has some of the different shades of blue in it. It's a dark blue, but it kind of has some lighter blue in it. So let me iron this real quick, and then I'll cut a 2.5-inch strip. And if my voice sounds a little bit scratchy, it's because I've been a little bit under the weather. Okay. This is some of my favorite type of quilting because you're just playing around with color and fabric, and you're not following any pattern. I don't have any written instructions. I just came up with my own measurements and then just started going to town through my scrap piles. And so it's quite fun to quilt this way because there's no rules. It's just whatever you like. And then once I have enough blocks made, I'll figure out my layout and how big it's gonna end up being. I've played around some with layout. Okay, so I need to cut, this is already a 2.5-inch wide strip, and I need to cut a 6-inch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a 6-inch. Okay, so this one, I've always had them facing me this way. Okay, so this one's gonna go across the top here. That's gonna be my 6-inch piece. And then I'm also gonna need an 8-inch piece. So let me cut 8 inches. 8 inches. Okay. These blocks end up finishing, this is an 8-inch square. So once you sew it into the quilt and you have your seam allowances, it'll end up being 7.5 inches in the finished quilt, but this right now is at 8 inches. Okay, so I'm going to right sides together, 1/4 inch seam. And then this is one that I'd already started, and then we'll just kind of take you through the whole process of me picking colors. And it was neatly folded up in boxes earlier, but as I've been digging through it all morning, I think I've made 25 blocks so far. It's gotten more and more chaotic on my table because I've just been digging through my scraps, which I feel like scrap quilting always gets worse before it gets better. But my goal is to use up my existing fabric. Sometimes I feel like I want to go fabric shopping, but I'm like, I really should use my ever-growing fabric pile. Okay. Now, when I've been pressing this, okay, so I have just been pressing this out. So when it's like this, folding it out, I'm just gonna finger press it right now, but pressing it with the seam always towards the outside edge. Okay, so now that I have that on there, then I'm gonna put this piece on. So I'll just lay it on there, and again, 1/4 inch seam down this other side. Then I'll press the whole thing, and it should be 8 inches square. If your blocks are coming off a little bit off, you can always trim your blocks up. Just make sure that you have an even size. Okay, so now I'm just gonna press this. Press my seam, fold this open. So this would definitely go on a blue row of my quilt. And so my plan is to make it like a scrappy rainbow quilt, just using up fabric that I have. And so this is gonna be definitely on a blue row. This is kind of like a modified log cabin block, because log cabin blocks, you keep adding on strips. You start with a center square, but typically you would have other colors on the other side. This is only like a 1/4 log cabin block. But okay, again, like I said, I plan on having, when I do my final layout, having like blue rows and then, but like diagonals, like a diagonal blue row, and then like green maybe. So it'd be like greens, blues, purples, pinks, all the way down till I get to like, you know, my yellows, pinks, oranges. And so I plan on laying it out on a gradient. But each block, even though these are both blue blocks, they're different. They have some of the same blue in it, but they still read as mostly a blue block, whereas this block would be mostly a green block. And so that's kind of my plan, is whatever is the more dominant color of the block is kind of how I would position it in my layout to kind of make a color gradient. Okay, so this one is a fun fabric right here. It has these little lemons and limes on it. So what I'm gonna do here is just cut myself a 4-inch strip. And this is kind of just how I've been working my way through this. I'm gonna go ahead and just trim up this edge here. Now, since this has yellow and green, you kind of have to decide. Am I going to make this a yellow block or a green block? And you could make it either way. Like you could make either color be your dominant color. Right now I'm just cutting a 4-inch square. Okay, and maybe we'll do one of both. Maybe I'll just show you right now that we could make this, one of these could end up being predominantly yellow and one could be predominantly green. And that could be kind of a fun exercise right now. So looking around at what I have this right here. So this is green. So if I want to make one of these, where's my little square ruler? I had a little, yeah, here we go. I've been using this ruler a lot. It's very helpful. Okay, so this ruler right here, I'm gonna now cut a 4-inch piece right here. So this one's already a 2.5-inch strip. And so I'll start laying this out, and then I need a 6-inch strip. So let me just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So here we're pulling out the greens, but I could go yellow, right? What if I wanted to go yellow? So on this block, I will use some yellows just to make this a more predominantly yellow block. So let me cut myself a strip here. If you're the person who likes to plan everything out ahead of time, this might not be the kind of quilting for you, but if you kind of just like to fly by the seat of your pants and see what happens, then you might love this type of scrappy quilting. I love it because each block is different. No two blocks are the same. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm gonna cut this to 4 inches. And so just so we can see here, so then I'll start making this one a yellow one. And then I need 6 inches. Okay, so then that one has yellow and this one has green. So now I'm going to need some more green for this one. And so I have this green, so I can go ahead and use this one. This is not cut to 2.5 inches. I don't know, this is just a remnant from my scrap pile. Right now it's at 4 inches, but I'm gonna cut this down to 2.5. Okay. And then I will, so now the next cuts that I need are 6 and 8. So I need, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so this would be like this. And then I need 8. It doesn't look like it's gonna all go together right now, but it will because of the seam allowances. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, okay. All right, so this will be my green block, okay? So you kind of have to decide too if you want, I think I want my stripes up and down. So I'm gonna put this piece here, right sides together, and I'm gonna sew right along this line. I'm gonna just finger press that to one side. That's the top. So now this piece fits on perfectly. So this is my 2.5 by 6 inch. I'm gonna sew it on the side here. Okay. So we're only working on one corner of the block at a time. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and give this a press before we add the next round of colors on here. Okay. So now we have this shape. Now this is gonna fit on there perfectly. So across the top here, this is 6 inches by 2.5. We're gonna add it on here. This is really easy little blocks because you don't have to match any seams. As you add your next piece on, it should fit, and you're just gonna sew it. These are some of my favorite kind of blocks to make because they're quick, it's all straight line sewing, and you can just go to town on your scrap pile and just put color combinations together endlessly. And you just pick the colors that you like. And you know, some of my blocks I think turned out better than others, but it's all fabric that was just sitting in my scrap pile not doing anything, so may as well put it to use. So now my 8-inch strip matches. So I'm gonna sew my 8-inch strip here on the side. So fold this over right here, and we're gonna sew right down this side. I'm using a 1/4 inch foot, and I have it set at 2.5. Okay, so let's see how this one came out. And like I said, this is the lemon fabric, and I went green. Isn't that cute? Okay, so that's it using green. Now let's make one using yellow. Okay, so again, I think I like it better with the stripes facing up and down. Maybe like this. You can kind of play around with it, especially if you fussy cut out something here. You know, you can make sure your image is going the way you want it to go. Okay, so now I need to throw one more yellow in here. I guess I'll use this one. Okay, so let me cut. I need to cut one more here. So I'm cutting this down to 2.5-inch strips. And then I will need to cut one of them. This. I need to cut one of them down to 6 inches and one down to 8 inches. So this was from a 10-inch square. So when I cut this, I'm actually gonna have a 6-inch and a 4-inch piece. So those could go together, but in this case, I want the 6-inch. But this you could save this because you could use it for something else for sure. This one needs to be 8 inches. So now I'm gonna add these pieces on. Okay, now I'll just add one more yellow piece here on the side. So you can see with both of these blocks here, I started both of them with the lemon and lime print, and with this one I used these yellow daisies and then this yellow grunge. So this block is gonna go in a yellow row. And in this one, I went with the green and white and then a solid green. And I could have also done darker green, it's just what I had. And so that's the fun thing with these blocks. I'm just gonna keep going until I make a whole bunch of these, and then I'm gonna start playing around with the layout. I said, I'll kind of sort them into the main colors. So this is gonna be blues. I have green, I have yellow. This one would go in a green row. This one is more yellow, okay. This one would go in a purple row. This one could go blue or green, but I probably would put this in a blue row because the outside, the biggest piece is blue. This is the one that I'm not 100% sure on because I used 3 very busy prints, and I kind of wish I would have thrown a solid into this, but you live and you learn. And again, this one could almost go blue or purple. Another orange one. This one has butterflies, daisies, and grunge. This one has butterflies, solid, and a plaid. This one has a very subtle print. It has this really fun kind of like fans, then it has little baby sloths, and then it has little tiny dots. And so this would go in a light blue row. It's still technically a blue. So this is a pink. This one is a pink. This one is purple. This one's like in the yellow oranges. And then once I do the layout, I'll probably try to go like light to dark or something as well. This one's looking kind of green to me, or pink, or light. It's just, it kind of has, you know, multiple colors. That's the thing with a scrappy quilt is it's gonna look unplanned, and you have to be a little bit okay with it, because I'm using all different kinds of prints from all different kinds. I've got fabric in here from Walmart, Joann's. I've got quilt store fabric in here. I've got some designer fabric. I've got all kinds of fabric in here. So it's truly gonna be extremely scrappy when I'm all said and done. This is pink. This is pink. This is my purple pile. This is yellow. Oh, look, that's cute. That's very similar to the one we made together, but I used like a yellow gingham on the outside. Okay, this is like kind of greens and blues. Oh, I love this block. This is one of my favorites. Oh, I just love it. It's got the fussy cut little fox and then the 2 shades of blue. So I really like how that block turned out. But not every block's gonna be your very favorite. This is pink, this little mermaid. This is a blue with a little seahorse. Blue. This one's got little kitty cats and some green. And then this one's like pretty much mostly white. Okay, so working on my different color piles, and I'm just gonna keep working through my scraps, and then I'll play around with layout. But if you have an overwhelming scrap pile that you need to tackle, this might be a fun type of block to make. It's very simple. You can just really play around with your color combinations, and happy quilting.